Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and we have a lot to discuss here. Okay, there are a ton of books here. These are the books that I want to read this year. They are all from my shelf. I think only one have I added in the last day or two. And then I have 3 books here that I'm going to pass along, and we're going to talk about them. Mainly because I want to, and I can. So, here we go. I bought this one, and I showed this in a haul, and you know, when I was pulling all the books to read out, I'm like, oh, I should really read this. And you know what? I have no interest in it still, so this one's going to go. I'm going to get to the other one here in a minute, but I'm going to let this one go. This is Blind Dates as Murder. This is book 2, I think, in the series. I loved these when I was a teen and read them. The first one is The Trouble with Tulip, and I have yet to find the first one, and I've had this for a while now, and I still haven't gotten it. So I'm just going to go on my Kindle and just get them that way. So I'm going to let this one go and keep holding on to book 2, waiting to find books to read at the thrift store. Okay, so this was the book that I was like, okay, if I can get this one accomplished this year, I'm going to feel really good about myself. And then I saw Chantel from Intentional Life talk about it, and I'm just like, I know I'm not going to like it. Then another friend of mine said, you're not going to like it. So I decided I'm just going to watch the movie of this, because I found that with classics, I tend to enjoy the movies better than the books. I'm just going to watch the movie with it, and then just save myself those 48 hours of my life that I will never get back in trying to read this big bad boy. So I'm going to be that person that isn't going to read Middlemarch. I don't know why this is like so dramatic. Maybe because this is like a drama period and I have to like get into the theme of it. I don't know. George Eliot. George Eliot is a woman under a pen name. And I love Silas Marner. I love that book. And I'll probably just keep with that one. I do want to read Ramona, but I was not impressed with how far I got into another book of hers that I read, and I don't even remember now. And I have this one, and you know what? I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let that be okay. Watch the 4-hour drama movie, and save myself, you know, that 48 hours of trying to read that whole book. But don't worry, I have some big ones, big chunks in here that I do want to get to. But we'll start. I do have some nonfiction up here, and my goal is to read 1 nonfiction book a month. Nonfiction is really difficult for me. I like to process, I like to think about things, I like to kind of hold it up to truth, especially nonfiction. You're kind of presenting what you're saying is true. And so I like to just kind of look at it from different ways and say, okay, is this really true? Okay, well, since I pulled this one out, we'll just start with this one. Becoming Michelle Obama, and Angie from The Science Moment, I think her name is, recently read this and said that she loved it. I had picked it up after my friend said that she really liked it, and I tend to agree with them in their choice of books. So I only got like a little bit in here before I just set it aside, and what I did get in was kind of just, you know, a basic typical memoir biography start, and I just haven't finished it. So this is one that I would like to make a priority for this year and finish. We've all heard of the book White Fragility, I believe it's what it's called. I can't remember it now. And this one is White Guilt by Shelby Steele, who is a research fellow at Hoover Institution and Stanford University, and is contributing editor at Harper's Magazine, and so on and so forth. So this is just his point of view for white privilege things. And this has a, whatever they call it, How Blacks and Whites Together Destroy the Promise of the Civil Rights Era. So So anyway, it's just one of those that saw hyped up along with White Fragility, so added it to the pile. And then this one is by Elizabeth Yates. This is Prudence Crandall, A Woman of Courage. Now, I don't know anything about this person, Prudence. I know I love Elizabeth Yates. I love her books. One of my favorite ones is Mountain Born. And it is just this intricate story of a boy and sheep herding and basically kind of like mountain family. And I fell in love with her books after that. She wrote Sarah Witcher's story. She wrote Caroline's Courage. I really like this, and this is like the first kind of adult-ish book that I've seen of hers, and I'm really curious about. So I would like to read this one. Again, I know nothing of Prudence or what she's got. I have The Story of Liberty, Charles Carlton Coffin, A History of the Reformation from Magna Carta to the Pilgrim Fathers. I would like to see if this is something that I can use in my homeschool. And just really want to get that done. I really have nothing else to say about that. Okay, moving on. The 4-hour work week. My mom actually started this when she was here, and she was reading things out loud and ended up even having conversations about an idea or a sentence or something that the author here had put in, and it had to do with you work in order to provide for a way for you to basically think of the next big thing to sell kind of idea. And I thought that was really interesting. So anyway, I've heard a lot of really good things about this. This is a lot thicker than I thought it was going to be when I got it. But I would like to read that one. Michael Hyatt, I have Free to Focus, and I would really like to get this one done too. I had started it. Oh yeah. I had started it, and I have it highlighted, and I think this is going to be a really good one. And that's all I have to say about that. And then lastly of the nonfiction, and if you notice, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nonfictions, and not one of them is like a devotional or a Christian growth or anything. And that is simply because that is still being worked on as to what I would like to kind of focus on. And I have a feeling those ones are just going to take me a little bit longer. Again, if you're new to my channel, I'm very critical of Christian writing, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. If you're going to present, if you're going to not present Christianity, but if you're going to represent Christianity, I want it to be solid, I want it to be true, and I tend to be a little bit more critical of them than I am of non-religious works. So those take me a little bit longer, again, because I just want to make sure that they are lining up with scripture, and that just is how it is. But I have this one, Money Making Mom, Crystal Payne. I read this years ago, and I would like to pick that up and reread it. So that's all the nonfiction. Let's get to this large stack I have here. These are the books that I would like to read this year. How this is going to work out, I have no clue. I don't know what I'll read and when, where, how, or why. It's just, I was going through my books, and I'm like, these are the ones that I want to read. Some of these I think are pretty popular, and I won't need to kind of talk about them at all, but some of them, like for this one example, I don't think many people know this. I think I did share this in a haul, and I still haven't read it. This is by Laurie Halse Anderson, who wrote Chains and Fever, and this one has to do with a daughter's perspective, I believe, on her father's PTSD, and I want to make sure that I have that right. Oh, here we go. Yes, she cares for her father, Andy, a war veteran who suffers from PTSD. They never stay in place too long because Dad's having a hard time. She falls in love with someone and then basically has to make decisions of what she wants and where her father is. And I think this will be really interesting. The Impossible Knife of Memory. I mean, that's an intriguing title. Okay, Jojo Moyes. I think this is the author that wrote Me Before You, which I've never read and I have no interest in reading. But she also wrote The Giver of the Stars, which I loved so much. I love that book. And this one is a World War I perspective. And France 1916, Sophie Lafleur, I don't know, must keep her family safe while her adored husband, Edouard, fights at the front. When their town falls to the Germans in the midst of World War I, she is forced to serve them every evening at her hotel. From the moment the new commandant set his eyes on Sophie's portrait, painted by her artist husband, a dangerous obsession is born, one that will lead Sophie to make a dark and terrible decision. Almost a century later, Sophie's portrait hangs in the home of Liv Halston, a wedding gift from her young husband before his sudden death. After chance encounter reveals the portrait's true worth, a battle begins over its troubled history. As the layers of the painting's shadowy past are revealed, Liv's world is turned upside down all over again, and her belief in what is right is put to the ultimate test. Dryer's done. So the first part of the story, I'm not sure. Like, I read that and I was like, but the second part has me really intrigued. I don't know about this one. So I'm intrigued, but I'm hesitant. I'm hesitantly intrigued. So that is going to be interesting. The Great Alone. I had a friend that sent me this, and I still have yet to read it. And I've heard so many good things about it, so now I have even more people's reviews that are mixed, and so I don't know what to expect from this. Yes, Benjamin. This one is going to go through Alaska, and this is after Vietnam War and just, again, hardships and nastiness. Wow. I mean, that would be a really great start to the new year, right? I need to move on, bring some lighter stuff. Philippa Gregory. Okay. I actually forgot I had this. Philippa Gregory, I have tried a couple of times and I'm just not getting into her. So this one intrigued me. I really would like to find a Philippa Gregory that I finish and then can make like an accurate review on if I'm gonna like her. The first one I started reading had to do like this water sprite, and that was not me. I knew I wasn't gonna get into that, so I just put that away. And then I think I had started the other Bullion Girl, or the first one of that. Years ago. I think I had just tipped my toes out of Christian fiction, and it just wasn't the right time. So I still haven't finished that one. But this one is Anne Neville and her sister Isabel are daughters of the most powerful magnate in the 15th century England, the Earl of Warwick, the kingmaker born with royal blood in their veins, widowed at 14, fatherless, stripped of her inheritance, and with her mother locked in sanctuary, and Isabel a vengeful enemy, Anne faces the world alone. So I think this would be very interesting, and it's now a major BBC TV series, and I like what BBC does, so that will be interesting. And here's another one we're going to step into. Friedrich Bachmann. I loved A Man Called Ove, or Ove, or however you say that. I've heard many ways. And I did not like Beartown. And I didn't finish it, so I don't even know if I would have liked it, but I didn't finish Beartown. And the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, I'm hearing it's really great, but I probably will never read it. But now I'm like, will I like? My grandmother asked me to tell you she's sorry. I don't know. But I'm going to try it because Bachmann. It is a story about life and death and one of the most important human rights, the right to be different. So we'll see. That's all I can say about that. Here's a chunk that I'm going to attempt this year. No, it's really not that bad. The Pillars of the Earth. I would like to read this whole series, whatever they're called. But this is Ken Foley's The Pillars of the Earth. This is basically the history of a cathedral and all that it entails. And I would like to read this. I've heard nothing but good, And again, the people that have raved about it are people that I tend to agree with. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this one on BookTube, just within my own little circle, but I would like to read this one. Again, all I have is that it's a history surrounding a cathedral being built. There's murder, mayhem, and medieval times. Okay, Pam Jenoff, who, she wrote, what did she write? Oh, she wrote Paris Girls, and I really liked that one. And this is one that I have been dying to read, and I finally found this one in a little free library, so I grabbed it, and I would like to finish reading that. And in Nazi-occupied Holland, 17-year-old Noah saves a baby from a train bound for the concentration camps, fleeing with him into the snowy wilderness. And so, if I remember correctly, this is about the kind of loosely based off of the one woman that was rescuing all those babies from concentration camps and like giving them to families and to raise. I think it's loosely based on that. I do not know for certain, but I would like to read that. I need some lighthearted stuff here. I received this one for Christmas, and I would like to get this actually going here in January. No one knows the worst thing they're capable of until they do it. Is that like G.K. Chesterton, no man knows how good he really is until he knows how bad he can be, or must be, or something like that? I wonder if this is based off of that. The Confessions of Franny Langton is a brilliant, page-turning novel that penetrates the skin and sears the soul, and is the story of a woman of her own making in a world that would see her unmade. So we'll see what that's all I know of this one. But, yeah. I got this for my birthday last year. It's actually one that I requested because I really wanted to read it. Picked it up to read it, and basically deadlines started coming and I never finished it. So this needs to happen. This really needs to happen. I think I want to do this month too. I would love to read more of the story. I would actually love somebody to write a good Caroline. I have heard that the Caroline Ingalls story that they wrote was not very good at all. So it made me a little nervous about Marilla, but I have heard nothing but good from this. So I'm really curious, since I kind of know Marilla's story, like how Marilla's story is. So this will be really interesting. Again, this is one that I really want to get to. Okay. We were the lucky ones. Again, another World War II, World War II book that I want to get to. That's pretty much all I know of this book. I know that everybody's raving about it, and I know that it's World War II. That's it. That's all I know. Ruta Sepetys is a recent find for me in authors, and I really like her books. Fountains of Silence was probably my favorite I've read of hers, and I've only read 2, so it's not saying so much. But I also read, and I get this mixed up all the time, Between Shades of Grey, which is like a Lithuanian World War II, World War I or II, I don't remember. History, Stalin, evilness, concentration camps, kind of a Lithuanian, and that one was good. I just don't think I liked it as much as Fountains of Silence, and I've heard that this one is like one of her best. So I'd like to get to this one, and it's World War II, and winter 1945. 4 refugees, 4 secrets. Yes, please sign me up. I'm right here. I have a feeling the reason I have so many World War II books to read is because I read a ton of World War II books, and there just comes a time when you need to take a break from World War II. All the Light We Cannot See, yet again, another World War II book that I need to get to. Marie-Laurie Leblanc lives with her father in Paris, near the Museum of Natural History where he works. When she is 12, the Nazi-occupied Paris, and father and mother flee to the walled citadel of Saint Malo, where Marie-Laurie's reclusive great-uncle lives in a tall house by the sea. With them they carry what might be the museum's most valuable and dangerous jewel. In a mining town in Germany, Werner... But that other word I don't have no clue what that is. An orphan grows up with his younger sister. Enchanted by a crude radio, they find that brings them some news and stories from places they have never seen or imagined. Werner becomes an expert at building and fixing these crucial new instruments and is enlisted to use his talent to track down the resistance. Marie, Laurie, and Werner from warring countries, both having lost many of the people they loved, come together at St. Malo as Duer illuminates the ways against all odds, people trying to be good to one another. This looks really good. Maybe I should read this one first. Okay, one of the classics that I would like to get to is Ivan Turgenev's Father and Sons. I've heard this is similar to Brothers Karamazov. I've heard this is like a way to read that book, but in a lot less time. So I'm really curious to read this. Again, I was so excited. I found it almost a year ago to date at a thrift store after only hearing about it the week before. So I took that as a sign as something that I needed to read. I still have it, and I still haven't read it. So we'll just add that to the stack here. Again, another one that I'm so excited to read about, especially after Angie from the Science Mama talked about it. That is The Martian by Andy. I wonder if this is one of those Weir, I don't know. But him, we're going to read his book. And I think Chantal also talked about this too. Or maybe it was April from Getting Hogo with it. Ugh. I think a lot of people talked about this last year, actually, the more I think about it. It could have even been Sarah from Nightstand. I think Sarah's Nightstand also talked about it. Oof. Books and Jams. I may watch too many BookTube videos. I don't know, but okay, so the reason I have put this off for so long is that I'm like, it's science. I'm not, most of that is going to go right over my head. But I've actually heard that this one actually does a really living way in presenting science, so I might actually understand most of it. So that intrigues me. So, yeah. Some guy lost on Venus or Mars or something and can't get home. Mars. He's lost on Mars and can't get home. And it's supposed to be really fascinating. We'll add it to the stack. I have on the stack 2 Julie Clawsons. I loved, so when I kind of got tired of Marie Connolly, who writes the same thing over and over again, just in a different format, and a lot of those fiction writers, Christian fiction writers that do, Clawson came into the scene, and the first book I read of hers was Lady of Milkweed Manor. And hers was different because hers was Christian woman out of wedlock as our main character, not as a side character. And that really intrigued me. And Clawson, for the most part, was kind of following that story, kind of just characters that were flawed. It was so refreshing. And so I really enjoyed her books, and then she kind of got a little bit formula-like, and I quit reading it, but I've heard that she's starting to kind of pick up with a lot of the original style of writing that she did. So I'm really curious. I have 2 here. They're both my mom's. I need to read them and then get them back to her.
Show you something, Mom.
So I'm really curious as to where she goes with these. So this is Julie Clawson. There's also Julie Lessman. And it can get kind of confusing because for a while I would keep picking up Julie Lessman thinking it was Julie Clawson. See? Blech. Julie Lessman goes too far for me in the sensual contact for Christians. Way too far for me, for my taste, for Christian content. If you did not label it Christian, I would be okay with this. For Christian content, she goes too far in the sensuality. For Julie Clawson, she deals with hard topics in a tasteful way. All the ones that I've read, and I've read quite a few.
Mommy, come here.
So this one is The Bridge to Belle Island. After a humiliating mistake. Oh my. After a humiliating mistake, lawyer Benjamin Booker resolves to never again trust a beautiful woman. Are we back to that? Ugh. That is getting old. We know. They're beautiful. And they betray you. And you will never trust a woman again. Sounds like every hero I've ever dealt with. When an old friend is killed, the senior partner isn't satisfied with Bow Street efforts and asks Benjamin to investigate. Evidence takes him to a remote island on the Thames, a world unto itself, shrouded in mist and mystery. Soon Ben finds himself falling for the main suspect, a woman who claims to not have left the island in 10 years. But is he a fool to believe her? And then another person dies, and it points to her. There's that one. And then, let's see. Set adrift on the tides of fate by the deaths of her parents, and left wanting answers, Laura Calloway now lives with her uncle and his disapproving wife in North Cornwall, where she feels like a castaway, always viewed as an outsider, even though she yearns to belong. While wreckers search for valuables along the windswept Cornwall coast, known for its many shipwrecks but few survivors, that feels very Poldark to me. That feels very Poldark. Laura searches for clues to the lives lost so she can write letters to the next of kin and return keepsakes to its rightful owners. When a man is washed ashore after a wreck, Laura acts quickly to protect him from the local smuggler determined to destroy him. As Laura and a neighbor care for the survivor, they discover he has curious wounds, and although he speaks in careful, educated English, his accent seems odd. Other clues wash ashore, and Laura soon realizes he's not whom she... Okay, that one sounds really interesting. Okay, so that's that one. Another Christian fiction that I have is In the Shadows of Croft Towers. I have no idea what this is about. Just heard my mom talk about it and rave about it often enough that I'm curious. I'm assuming this is kind of like a Jane Eyre retelling. Guys, I'm not a Jane Eyre fan. At all. That one's going to be interesting. And then Tamara Alexander, again, I think this was in a haul that I recently did. And this is With This Pledge, a Carnton novel. What can a woman, a mere governess, do against the scourge of slavery? So, there is that one. I think that'll be interesting. And then this one is also a Christian fiction, and I just wanted to reread it. This is The Princess by Laurie Wick. I really loved this book, again, as a teen. I actually wasn't supposed to read it, but, you know, rebellious person I am, stole the Christian fiction book, The Princess, and read it in the bathroom, even though my mom knew exactly what I was doing. So, darn those rebellious Christian teens. But the premise of the story is that there is this made-up kingdom, and the queen, or the princess died. The queen and king need their son to get married. He's still grieving his wife. Kind of your typical kind of setup, right? And so ends up marrying a girl that he just, it's like, fine, just pick a good woman for me that will do well for my kingdom, and she can live in her side of the house, I'll live in mine, and we'll just be king and queen together. And then, but she's a strong Christian, and it's just kind of almost like an Esther feel to it of what does God want me to do in what I can do being the princess of this country. And so it's kind of an interesting, I don't know, there's just certain things in here that, I don't know, I really liked. Not so much a falling in love and marrying, but like being married, not loving each other, and then growing to love one another. Again, I was a unique, rebellious child and preferred stories like that. What can I say? Alright, this is going to be a long video if I don't get talking here. I loved Not My Will by Francina Arnold. And then my mom had a podcast, and if I can remember, I'll leave it linked down below. I might just leave her podcast link down below so you can just enjoy all the bookishness there. She's more centered on Christian fiction, so that might be helpful for some of you out there. But this one is Straight Down a Crooked Lane by the same author of Not My Will. Not My Will was superb. It was Christian fiction, like back in the 20s or 30s whenever this was printed. And it wasn't like the sickly sweet Christian books that just have nothing to it. It was really good. It was really deep, and it was, yeah, it was really good. I liked Not My Will by Francina Arnold, and I recommend reading that if you haven't. And so when I heard there was another one, I wanted to read it. I wanted more. Okay. In my Christian fiction, in my classic reading, I read Scarlet Pimpernel. Loved it. I have the second one, which is I Will Repay by the same author. But this one is an abridged. And I did not know that. Her books are so short. Why do you need to abridge them? So, this was so hard to find anyways. I don't think I'm going to be able to find an unabridged copy. I'm just going to have to take it as is, but I'm so mad about that. You don't need to abridge something that's already short, but whatever. Whatever. I'll read it and get rid of it gladly just because I just want to read and know what goes on with the third. So, this is the second Scarlet Pimpernel, which I love so much. And then I want to get into Louise Penny this year, and this is The Kingdom of the Blind, which I think is the first one in the Inspector Gamache. I think it's Inspector Gamache series. There's a ton of these out here. But I just want to read one and know if I'm going to like this author or like these kind of books or not. This deck is getting really dull. So, have you read Louise Penny? Am I going to like these? I don't know. I can see it going both ways. So we'll start with that. Or we'll get to that. Antonia Fraser, Faith and Treason, the story of the gunpowder plot. I'm really curious, I think. I think this is the one. I don't know. But Guy Fawkes, I'm all there. Want to know more. Give me more. Guy Fawkes is so weird because he's the kind of rebel that I shouldn't like. But I do. And so, no. By the way, before you ask, I have not seen V for Vendetta. I'll just cover that right now. But yes, Faith and Treason, I'm all here. It's all about Guy Fawkes night. I started doing Fawkes on November 1st, which my Hoopla had that, but I never got it finished. I just, that was one I started as the audio and then realized this one is going to be better as reading, not listening. I have 3 more books here to talk about. And let's see if I can get through this quickly. This is going to be a long video, y'all. I already said that, I know. Okay, so this one is A Study in Charlotte. You've never seen Watson and Holmes like this before. So the last thing Jamie Watson wants is a rugby scholarship to Sherringford, a Connecticut prep school just an hour away from his estranged father. But that's not the only complication. Sherringford is also home to Charlotte Holmes, the famous detective's great-great-great-granddaughter, who inherited not only Sherlock's genius, but also his volatile temperament. So, not niece. So, great-great-great-granddaughter of Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, this looks fantastic. I want to read it. My daughter loved Enola Holmes, and that whole series has been inhaling it. I'm curious to see if this is going to be any good. I'll give that to her, and we'll go on from there. And then this one is The Wives of the Signers, the woman behind the Declaration of Independence, forward by David Barton. And I don't know who wrote this, but there's Abigail Adams in here, Stockton in here, wife of Richard Stockton, and Deborah Hart. Mother of 13 suffered from severe sickness as her husband was hunted by the British. Ooh, that sounds interesting. So, yeah, I saw this and was like, I want to read that. By the way, I'm listening to John Adams by David McCullough on Audible. Phenomenal. This is my big goal for this year. And I hate this cover with a passion. Okay, so I read a really good article about why Christians... There goes my stack. I read a really good article this year, or last year. I read a really good article about Anna Karenina and why you should read it or not, and like parallelisms. It was really good. So I was like, okay, I've not really wanted to read Anna Karenina, but I will. And I had found this copy at a thrift store for like $2, and it had this like Barnes & Noble. It was brand new because it had this Barnes & Noble cover across it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty. Took the Barnes & Noble cover off, and I'm like, this doesn't even fit. And that is not what I thought it was when I first took it off. It was very awkward. Very awkward. And so we need some post-it notes. Cause I know they're knees, but that is not the first impression that I get when I first see it. Dirty mind and all. So yeah, here's my big accomplishment, or big goal, I guess I should say. I haven't accomplished it yet. My big goal for the year is to read Anna Karenina. And I know the story of this. I know the plot line of this. Again, this is like, you'll never get those 48 hours back that you read it. But I'm really curious, like, even more so than Middlemarch, to read this, to see if it, to kind of understand the article a little bit more, is I guess what I should say. Big goal. And that's it. Those are the books that I would like to try to read this year. There are
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28,
29, 30, 31, 32, 33. There are 34 books here. If I could read 3 of these a month, I could finish this stack in the year 2021, which would be an awesome goal. A very awesome goal. I have a whole nother stack just outside this lens here of books that I want to read during middle grade March. So that will take some time away from reading all of these. So we'll see. Have you read any of these? Start leaving comments down below. And how crazy am I? It's already halfway through January, and I think I've finished 2 books. I've read 3, which I'll just do a review here and not in my other update because I sent it back home with my mom. 3 by Rochelle Decker. If you like 3 by, wait, 9. It's 9. Okay, if you liked 3 by Ted Decker, this is 9 by Rochelle Decker, his daughter. And they have similarities, but complete opposite, and it's really fascinating. It was also a book I couldn't read at night. So there's that. Thriller, I guess is what you could call, suspense, thriller, something along those lines. Yeah, it was interesting. It was a very interesting book. It gave me a lot to ponder at the end. Did I like it? I think the writing was really interesting. I think it was really good. I would probably never read it again just because, well, books like that you read them once and there really isn't anything to read again because you've already gotten the story from it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that was a 4-star read just from the standpoint of being very interesting and whatnot. But it's hard to talk about. There's another book that's hard to talk about. And then I read, and that one I have, so I'll have to wait for that one. So here's the stack. I would like to try to start making a priority for me to start reading again because it's been a while and I need that back in my life. So hope you enjoyed this video. There have been some great videos put out recently of books that you want to read in the coming year, and I have some other books planned, or some other book videos planned to talk to you about, and that will come here shortly. But in the meantime, I'm going to get going and start on the stack. See you next time, and have another cup of coffee and read another chapter.